Part 14. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 131. The experiment failed? What exactly happened? I don't know. It is said that they are a group of people who escaped from an experimental base decades ago. They were all test subjects for human experiments. I have also encountered that kind of telepathy, and it is indeed relatively powerful. I have also encountered others. I don't know any more. Celine shook her head. Last question, do you know the golden sword seed? Garen said lightly. What? Celine looked confused. Garen stood up. I've asked all the questions that need to be asked. I don't know what the story is between you and that little guy, and I don't care about it. But if you want to stay with me and let me protect you, you have to give me something in exchange. It's been prepared a long time ago. Xylan smiled slyly and took out a black scroll from her pocket. Toss lightly. Snapped. Garen caught it steadily and took a look. There was a line of small words printed clearly on the scroll, Essence Locking Method. This is something in exchange. Garen glanced at her, turned around and left with the scroll. After returning to the small courtyard and taking care of the afternoon dinner that was delivered, Celine was summoned. Garen also hurried to the conference hall inside the manor complex. Since you agreed to Celine's help in solving Ansara's matter, you must be responsible to the end. Naturally, he won't leave until the matter is over. When they arrived at the conference hall, most of the others had arrived. Dragon King Yoda was absent. In his place sat another blonde woman wearing a tight black leather outfit. She is tall, has slender legs, her black leather jacket is open, her breasts are tightly wrapped with black bandages, and she is not wearing any underwear. She looks very sexy. Let me introduce you, this is the Interpol police officer who just arrived, Ms. Meyer Ailelan. Celine stood up and introduced the newcomer's identity. She came here specifically to track down Ansara. Following Ansara, everyone looked a little surprised. What kind of person is Ansara, who can calmly enter and exit among the experts of the Secret Service who are surrounded by many people? There are still people who dare to track such an expert alone. It certainly can't be a simple character. For a moment, the eyes of the two generals, as well as Sulan Arasai's eyes, fell on this woman. Meyer Alaran's facial features can only be considered to be of average quality, but his expression is cold, and he looks like he should not be approached by strangers. It seems that I'm still late. I think everyone here already knows about Ansara's terrorist capabilities. I won't emphasize it here. According to the intelligence I got, from the border of the ALU Federation, Kandavila incoming telegram. Ansara has arrived at the ancient ruins of Kandavila. She glanced around everyone with cold eyes. Everyone here, as an Interpol inspector, I hope that everyone will follow my instructions and intercept and kill Ansara. Anyone who can prove his temporary resistance to Ansara, please stand up. Suddenly everyone's eyes fell on Garen. Garen frowned, and although he was a little unhappy, he still stood up. Your mission is to block Ansara for a short period of time and create opportunities for our people. When the time comes, you will obey orders, Meyer arranged calmly. Wait a minute, Garen interrupted her, my purpose is just to protect the safety of my friends, other things are not in my consideration. Please note that I do not mean to request, this is an order. You have no right to refuse. Meyer frowned. I am forcibly recruiting all combat forces present as an Interpol patrol officer, not asking for your opinion. Okay, you can sit down. Order, Garen sneered. What qualifications do you have to order me? The two generals had wry smiles on their faces. Sulan and Irasi also didn't know how to mediate. Sulan winked at Garen repeatedly. Meyer's expression was indifferent, as if he had anticipated the situation. Mr. Gallen, she took out a stack of white paper information from her handbag, unfolded it gently and placed it on the table. Here are all the murders you have committed since your debut. The number of deaths directly or indirectly related to you is 35. You can choose to disobey the recruitment order, then I can also choose to kill the serial killer on the spot. The murderer. Are you threatening me? Garen narrowed his eyes. This is not a threat, I am giving you a chance to atone for your sins. Myers' eyes met Galen's calmly. Go out or die, it's your choice. I choose to kill you, Garen laughed ferociously, grabbed the door panel and pulled it violently. Boom. The door, which was as tall as one person, was ripped off and spun towards Meyer. Like a giant fan blade, it actually avoided other people with great precision, without causing any accidental damage. Click. The door panel was kicked through. Meyer kicked upwards and easily broke the entire door. Then he kicked to the side and hit Garen in the head with a whirring sound. Her long legs drew an arc, and a bright silver knife tip popped out from the bottom of the high heels she wore. He stabbed Garen hard at the temple. The strange thing is that the side kick actually has a vague feeling of violent shaking, as if it is unpredictable and may change its direction at any time. Sulin pulled Iracy away. He knew the terrifying lethality of Ms. Meyer and Garen. Even if he was a master of martial arts, it would definitely not be easy for him to encounter them. Boom. Galen hit the tip of the knife on the sole of Meyer's foot from the side, breaking it and flying it away, nailing it to the ceiling with a thud. Bang 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 bang. The two exchanged blows, with Meyer's slender legs kicking out like a storm, and then Garen blocked them one by one, but there were still many misses that hit him in the chest. This is the speed difference. The fists and legs between the two people intersected, and almost only a blurry shadow could be seen, and fine dust was shaken away one after another. In an instant, the two men left the conference hall and came to the corridor while fighting. The guards guarding outside didn't know what to do, so they had to stay away. Tomahawk. Meyer roared, raised one leg high, almost splitting it into a straight line, and then slashed down like lightning. Bang. Looking for death, Galen grinned ferociously, stretched out his hand to grab hold of his legs, lifted Meyer up and smashed him against the wall. Boom. Garen's movements suddenly stopped. It's like pressing pause on a videotape. He grabbed Meyer's right leg with both hands and was about to smash it against the wall. Meyer grabbed a sconce on the wall with both hands and supported his other leg on the ground. His face was pale and he bit his lower lip, but he still looked indifferent. His full chest kept rising and falling violently. Clearly frightened. Garen glanced at a large hole in the wall on his side. The hole was as big as a human head, and white wall dust was faintly scattered around the edge. Old guy, are you looking for death? He looked towards the corridor on the other side. At the corner of the corridor, the 8-armed Dragon King Yoda held a black heavy sniper in one hand, and the muzzle of the gun was pointed steadily at Garen. His face turned red, a little excited and a little angry. Put down Meyer. I don't care about others. If you dare to touch Meyer, I will die with you. Try it. A cold glint flashed in Garen's eyes. It seems that you really want to die. A strong aura slowly spread, and his body began to slowly expand. At such a close distance, he was sure to kill these two people at the cost of a non-vital shot. Yoda, get out of here. No one wants you to save me. Meyer didn't appreciate it and yelled. Yoda. Garen. Everyone, please take a step back, for my sake. Sulin's voice suddenly came out. Ms. Meyer, this matter is a misunderstanding. Everyone, please calm down. We are all gathered together to deal with Ansara. Okay, everyone, relax. Lieutenant General Lanny walked out with a cane in both hands. Ms. Meyer, you see, although Interpol has the right to make specific deployments, it is only for people within the system. Mr. Galen is not a person within the system, so he will naturally have conflicts with you. How about this? This time the command is handed over to General Crone, who knows the situation best. Garen let go of Meyer's legs. He didn't really want to kill Meyer at first, he just wanted to scare her and kill her for her arrogance. The two generals obviously intended for him to be the first, but when Yoda suddenly appeared, he really became murderous. This was immediately noticed by Sulin and the two generals, and they quickly came forward to make peace. To prevent the situation from developing into an irreducible point, cunning old guy Garen cursed secretly. Let Meyer limp away and glare at himself fiercely. He didn't show off his strength on purpose, otherwise this Meyer Interpol really thought he could defeat him. Not bothering to look at these people any longer, Garen turned around and walked outside. As soon as he left the small building, he heard someone calling him from behind. Garen, wait for me. Sulin quickly ran up from behind and put a hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry, it's inconvenient for my father, so I asked you to show your respect. That Meyer has always been like this. If you don't kill her arrogance, there will be trouble later. I know. That Meyer also planned to use me to show her strength, but she didn't expect that I would take advantage of her. She has good fighting skills. I don't know where she came from. She can track on Sara, and she has some skills. Strength. Garen leaned against the wall beside the exit with his arms folded. But what's her relationship with that old guy Yoda? Yoda has been chasing her for many years. Sulin smiled bitterly. It's a pity that he has no interest in him at all. Meyer is one of the fighters on record in the Federation. He is good at leg skills and tracking. I don't know if I had any problems with Yoda in the past. Entanglements. Tangled. Garen was speechless. What happened last time was all up to you, otherwise we would really have no power to fight back. You don't have to worry about Ansara after that. The higher UPS have paid attention to it, and there will be a steady stream of masters coming. In the end, you will accompany. How about I go to a place and get it over with, Sulin said calmly. No problem, Garen agreed without hesitation. He originally owed Sulin 2 favors, once for his sister and the second time when he was surrounded on the way back. At that time, he had not yet mastered hard Qigong and could not resist being surrounded by submachine guns. If it hadn't been for Sulin, he would have been seriously injured and fled. After that, he would have been continuously hunted by the state machine, which would have been extraordinary. This was also the main reason why he originally wanted to go to the Nantian Holy Fist sect early to search for the secret martial arts book to improve his strength, but he still stayed here. One cannot be untrustworthy, especially to one's friends. Let's go, let's drive. Sulin patted Garen on the back and walked out first. Before walking far, Garen saw Celine running out of nowhere, jumping up and landing on his right shoulder. Come down, he frowned. I want to go too. If I don't stay with you, I will be in danger, Celine replied coquettishly. Sitting on Garen's shoulders was extremely stable. It doesn't matter, let's go together. Sulin glanced at Xylan and then smiled. Anyway, there's no need to hide this matter now. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 132. Wu. In the middle of the vast plain covered with yellow sand, a white line runs through the yellow plain and stretches to the distant sky where the end cannot be seen. A silver car was driving slowly on the white line. Silver lines were engraved on the edges of the car's body, making it look extremely luxurious. The car quickly drove into a flat land, with waves of sand and dust rising from the rear of the car like a yellow tail. Seen from above, there are some small yellow balls on the flat ground, arranged in a swirl shape. The car slowly stopped in front of a ball on the outermost circle. Amidst the slamming sound of the car door opening and closing, 3 young people got out of the car, 2 adults and 1 child. The 2 adults have different appearances. One man has red hair like flames and a handsome appearance. He looks like a young man who spends a lot of time in the world. The other man was strong and tall, with purple-black shawl hair, dark red eyes with a hint of indifference, one arm across his chest, and a cute little girl sitting on top of him. Where is this place? The tall man was Garen, who had followed Sulin out. With a slight shake of his arm, he dropped Selene from his hand. Somewhere on the edge of the Tagan-Licona desert, I don't know. I just found this place based on my father's instructions. Sulin shook his head. Let's go, what I'm looking for is in the center. He took the lead and walked towards the center of the whirlpool formation. Garen and Selene followed. Along the gap between the whirlpool array balls, the three of them went straight in. From time to time, Garen gently touched the ball passing by. His tentacles were cold, hard, and rough, and many holes like honeycomb eyes could be seen on the surface. Each of these spheres is 2 meters high, dark yellow in color, and almost indistinguishable from the sand below. The three of them walked to the center of the circular formation, and in the middle stood the largest 3-meter-high yellow ball. Sulin stood in front of the ball, groping for something. Soon, he pressed his palm gently, and the ball clicked, and a small round yellow stone slab was peeled off, only the size of a palm, revealing a deep black hole underneath. He reached in and groped for a while, then gently took out something, a black baggage. After quickly opening the baggage, there were only some yellow gravels left inside, and nothing else. Unexpectedly, I still haven't found it. Sulin sighed and turned around. As expected of Ansara, he managed to eliminate so many locations and find this place just by relying on his father's lie. Garen came up from behind. What are you looking for? The real golden sword seat was hidden here by my father, Sulin explained. It's a pity that it has been taken away now. No matter what aspect of the bet with Ansara, my father lost. Only this piece of black cloth covering the sword base is left. Garen ignored the deep meaning of his words and other circumstances. He suddenly narrowed his eyes and stared at the black bundle in Sulin's hand. He slowly reached out and took the black bundle from Sulin's hand, just like taking it and looking at it casually. As soon as he touched the black cloth, a stream of cool air flowed into his fingers from the top of the baggage. Garen's whole body trembled slightly, and he began to quietly pull away the black cloth and make a careful inspection. The airflow on the black cloth continuously flowed into his fingers, then along his palms, arms, chest, and finally merged into his brain. In just a few seconds, the airflow on the black cloth suddenly weakened and disappeared. The feeling of the fabric being heated by the desert temperature was immediately transmitted from his hands. "Show me," Selene shouted from the side. Garen threw the black cloth to her casually, and seemed to hear Sulin starting to say something again, but he could no longer hear clearly. At this time, all his energy was focused on the attribute bar below his sight. Power 2.64, Agile 1.22, Physical Fitness 2.15, Intelligence 1.53, Potential 112%. Potential 112%. As expected. It's indeed potential, Garen was pleasantly surprised. Finally there are new attribute points. It's been too long since he got new attribute points, and he can't even remember how long ago it was when he last added points. During this period of time, his improvement was all due to the practice of secret martial arts. Galen, Sulin's voice came from his ears. Garen finally came back to his senses and saw Sulin looking at him in confusion. "Sorry, I was distracted. I just thought of something." "Then are you planning to go back to Huaishan now?" "I suddenly changed my mind," Garen whispered. "I will track down Ansara with you." "Oh," Sulin was slightly stunned. "Let's go back." Garen turned around and walked towards the car. Ignoring what Xylan and Sulin thought, he got into the car and leaned back on his seat. He closed his eyes and seemed to be falling asleep, but in fact, all his energy was focused on the attribute column and skill column. All of his circumstances were now clear. Power 2.64, Agile 1.22, Physical Fitness 2.15, Intelligence 1.53, Potential 112%. My woo. Colossus mutation, explosion, top layer, skin hardened by 1 level, iron body, chi and blood stabilized by 1 level, boulder skill. Red Yin Gong, 1 level, 4 levels in total. Now there are several options to improve the effect level of the giant elephant's mutated secret weapon. Iron Body and Giant Stone Skill are both entry level and can be upgraded to the first level. Moreover, the improvement can achieve the effect of improving the overall giant elephant's secret weapon. It is only the specific improvement effect. I don't know how. Then to upgrade the Qiang Kung Fu, from the entry level to the basic level, you only need a few attribute points. But, is it worth spending this attribute point on it? He hesitated. There are several mysterious symbols behind the skill bar, which represent the attribute points required to forcibly upgrade the skill. One attribute point can be used to upgrade low-level skills by 1 level, 2 points for intermediate skills can be forcibly upgraded by 1 level, and 5 points for high-level skills can be forcibly upgraded by 1 level. There are also conditions for skill learning and improvement that must be met. Failure to improve may be due to incomplete data collection. At the beginning, his secret martial arts of the giant elephant was aided by the paper ball soaked in potion, and the pills from his teacher Fei Baiyun. Otherwise, if he wanted to improve, he could only practice step by step, or at some points. It's really not that difficult to practice secret martial arts. Garen suddenly sighed. With his talent and conditions, it would be difficult for Miwu to progress, let alone other warriors. The vast majority of warriors are the same. Even if they are talented and practice hard for 10 or 20 years, and finally master a secret martial art after coming out, they are still vulnerable to hot weapons. This feeling and bitterness may only those secret martial artists who have truly practiced hard will understand. Sulin and Xylin also got into the car at this time. The car started slowly, turned a corner, and drove in the direction they came from. None of the 3 people in the car spoke. Garen has been thinking about what aspect it is added to. It was not easy to get this attribute point. Compared with the easy way to get the attributes before, it is a world of difference. Attribute points are easy first and then difficult. Once the body has become resistant to most doomed antiques, it will be more difficult to easily obtain attributes. It's a pity that he understood it too late. After some final thought, Garen's eyes finally fell on agility. So far, in his battles with many masters, he has felt that his peak hard Qigong defense is enough, but he can only resist hard because he cannot keep up with others because of his speed. In his martial arts route, the most important things are strength and physique, followed by agility and intelligence. Now the defense is enough for the time being. Even on Sara's Dragon Gate can't do much damage to me unless it opens to the 4th gate. Then the most important thing is to add agility and intelligence. If the agility and speed can't keep up, then you are always in a position where you cannot keep up with the enemy. Improving your intelligence will also be beneficial to grasping the situation. But for the time being, it is better to improve your actual strength. Looking at this hard-won attribute, he finally made up his mind and fixed his gaze on agility. In the attribute column, the agility value slowly began to change vaguely from 1.22 to 1.52. Huh? The attribute points have returned to adding 0.3 at a time. Garen was slightly surprised. He immediately noticed that as his agility increased, his strength also increased, slowly changing from the original 2.64 to 2.66. Just after adding attributes, Garen felt as if his body was about to float. It is obviously caused by the excessive growth rate of Agile. Adding 0.3 agility at a time, for a fighter like Garen who has particularly precise control over himself, the improvement is not ordinary. He closed his eyes and felt the light changes all over his body. Originally, he planned to add some points to intelligence. After all, the improvement of intelligence will have a subtle impact on all aspects, but he finally gave up. According to the role he once analyzed, the intelligence attribute can be used in understanding and analysis. There is a comprehensive improvement in memory and memory. But for him, who can quickly master the introduction to knowledge subjects as long as he meets the attribute requirements, this is not very important. Intelligence is like the skills in martial arts, it is indispensable, but it only works when the power gap is not too big. Under absolute power, any skills and strategies are useless. After all, the more concealed and sophisticated the strategy, the more precise it is to connect all the links. If one link is wrong, all the efforts will be wasted. The most important point is that what he pursues is not the victory obtained by the layout, but the true purpose of martial arts. This is also the true purpose of his love for martial arts. The goal brought by the earth from the previous life, to break through the limits of human beings and achieve evolution. In martial arts, apart from the purpose of killing, the rest is to break through the limits of the body and achieve the purpose of evolving oneself. This is also the limit that many fighters in this world pursue. Garen became familiar with the changes in his body, stretched out his fist, opened it slightly, squeezed it, and repeated it. From the words and deeds of Fabian, Falak, and his senior sister, he became more and more determined to this goal. The car slowly turned around, and the whirlpool array behind it got further and further away, until it slowly disappeared on the horizon. On the right side of the road ahead, a parked white car appeared in the distance, with two goldfish eye light bulbs reflecting the dazzling sunlight. There was a man standing in front of the car. He was a bearded man wearing a white cloak and wrapping himself up like an Arab. He was lying on the front hood of the car doing some repairs. Black smoke kept coming out of the car, and it made strange clicking noises from time to time. Sulin drove slowly past the bearded man. Outside the window on the right side, you can vaguely see a group of camels carrying goods in the distance, crossing the sand dunes and heading in the opposite direction. Dark-skinned men are riding on the camels as they sway forward. The breeze blows, vaguely carrying, come to the clear sound of camel bells in the distance. In the car, the three of them were quietly admiring the scenery outside. The endless stretch of yellow desert gives people a delicate and smooth illusion under the sun, like fine porcelain. Sulin slowly slowed down the speed of the car, and the sound of the engine became much quieter for a while. Snapped. A small gray shadow stepped on the car window and jumped quickly. From right to left, land on the sand on the left and run quickly towards the distance. Only after running far away did the three of them see clearly that it was a small cat-like animal, like a kitten with rabbit ears, covered in furry gray fur. Compared to a cat, its ears are much larger and longer, and they sway back and forth. This little guy's eyes were narrowed as he ran, and his four short legs kept alternating. He was actually very stable. Big-eared fox. A common small animal. Sulin looked at the four petite paw prints left on the car window speechlessly. We have just entered the desert here, and I didn't expect to see big-eared foxes, Celine said with emotion. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 133. Garen sat aside and said nothing, still quietly feeling the changes brought about by his improved agility. The car continued to move forward, and it didn't take long. Celine suddenly looked back. Someone is following you. Sulin looked behind him in the reflector and was slightly surprised. Following? No, I checked carefully when we came out. Buzz. The sound of the engine behind the car was getting closer. Bang. The car was hit hard, the car shook violently, and its direction was almost shaken. Shit. Someone is really following you. Sulin's heart skipped a beat and he quickly turned the steering wheel. Want to avoid a rear-end collision. Bang bang. There were two more crashes, and two black cars surrounded him from the right and left. The car's mirror was knocked off. Holy shit. Where did these guys come from? My Gemli limited edition. Sulin glanced at the broken reflector with a pained face and turned the steering wheel wildly, trying to escape from the car's pinch. Come out. Bang. There was another heavy sound from the side, and the right side of the car was directly smashed, almost touching Galen, who was sitting in the back seat. "Find a place to park," Garen shouted in a deep voice. "I'm looking for an opportunity." Sulin was also anxious. In this situation of being caught in the middle, once the car stops, it will be hit hard from behind. Even he is very young and can withstand the impact. If you don't find a good opportunity, you might get knocked over. Bang! Bang bang! After 3 consecutive impacts, there was a huge earthquake in the car, and the car actually started to spin like a top. The 3 Galens were shaken and dizzy inside. Galen was lucky, but Celine and Sulin both hit their heads hard on some hard places in the car. Ta 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 ta! The glass of the car behind shattered with a crash. Garen pushed Celine down onto the seat and pinned her down. The bullets hit the car with a clanging sound, and golden sparks spattered from some places from time to time. "Damn it! It's a light machine gun," Sulin shouted loudly. "Hurry up and find a chance to stop the car," Garen shouted loudly, but the sound of the machine gun was too noisy to be heard clearly. "I'm looking for an opportunity," Sulin replied loudly, leaning down to steady the steering wheel. In this case, Garen may be fine, but he and Celine are definitely not at the peak of hard Qigong, and they will definitely be seriously injured after a few blows. Bang! It hit hard again, and the black car on the right came close to it. A man in black pointed a black gun barrel at it coldly. Bang! 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 A large cloud of bullets hit the silver car body crazily. Sulin stepped on the brakes desperately, but the car was still held hostage by 3 black cars and spun forward. Suddenly a big hand came out from behind, held his head and pushed it down. With a bang, a large cloud of bullets broke through the side window and passed over the big hand. Some of them hit the back of the hand directly, sending out sparks. "Damn it! Can't stop? What the hell kind of car are they driving? It's so powerful," Sulin yelled, and the brakes on his feet had completely failed. He pulled out the pistol from his waist with one hand and tried to shoot, but there was no chance. Just as Garen was about to put his head out and jump out of the broken car door, there was a loud bang, and a large cloud of bullets sprayed out from the broken hole, hitting him hard. The violent impact shook his whole body, and he was shot back directly. "Oh shit!" Galen grabbed a fragment of the door in the car and smashed it out. With a sneer, the car door fragments spun and shot out. Bang! There was a loud noise, and a large cloud of bullets hit the fragments of the car door head-on. It was knocked back hard and hit Garen on the chest with a bang. Bang 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 bang. Continuous violent gunshots hit Garen one after another, hitting him so hard that he couldn't get up. The whole body is getting hotter and hotter, and the temperature is getting higher and higher. It is the intense heat generated by the impact and friction of the bullet. Garen was so pressed that he couldn't get up at all, and the powerful shotguns hit him hard with huge impact. "Stop the car quickly," Garen shouted loudly. The brakes failed, Sulin punched the steering wheel hard. Garen just raised his head. Bang! Another shot hit him hard in the face. "I'll kill your whole family." Boom! He tore up the entire back seat of the sofa and threw it at the side of the black car. There was a muffled sound, and a black car on the right was hit by a sofa and rolled over. It fell down the driveway and rolled down the sand dune on the side. With a roar, the car suddenly exploded, and several men in black who had just jumped out were completely engulfed in flames. The other 2 black cars were immediately frightened and did not dare to get too close, so they retreated a distance. "Are you okay?" Sulin asked loudly. Garen took a breath and was about to speak when he suddenly glanced behind him from the corner of his eye, and suddenly the hairs on his body stood up wildly. "Holy shit! It's a rocket launcher." He didn't have time to think about it, he only felt a chill on his back. "Jump out of the car!" growled. He was the first to jump to the left and banged the car door. Celine and Sulin followed him out at the same time. Boom. The silver car turned into a ball of fire and exploded. The three of them rolled a long distance on the sand, and several black cars were carried by inertia for a long distance before they came to a steady stop. Garen just raised his head and saw a group of people getting off the black car. There were actually two people carrying rocket launchers aimed at this direction and ready to fire. A chilling sense of crisis came over me. Without any time to think, he jumped sideways, grabbed the little guy Celine by his side and jumped several meters away. Boom boom. A large amount of sediment was blown up and rained down in all directions. Garen pulled Celine and rolled down a sand dune, finally avoiding the sight of the group of people. After rolling dizzy for a while, the two of them stopped and remained motionless at the bottom of the dune. Puff puff. After spitting out the sand in his mouth, Galen turned over, picked up the dizzy Celine, and slapped her face several times. Wake up. Now is not the time to faint. Celine's face was so hot that she finally woke up. You brat. How dare you slap me? She struggled to get out of Garen's hands, but to no avail. I had been turned around for so long, and now I was so weak and dizzy that I couldn't exert any strength at all. Garen stood up and looked up at the top of the dune. This is the first time I've been chased so embarrassingly. You bastards, they are here for me. I'll blame you, Celine coughed a few times. You stay here. I'm going to see Sulan. Garen said nothing and quickly climbed up the sand dune. Climbing up the sand dune, I happened to see Sulan walking this way covered in yellow sand. Are you okay? Sulan asked loudly. Shaking his head, Garen walked over. Where are our attackers? They're all gone. Sulan pointed to the distance, and could vaguely see two black spots, which were the two black cars that were about to escape. They are obviously targeting you or Celine. They just put all their firepower on you. Damn, they even took out the KTR rocket launcher. I only heard that this thing was a new product developed by Weissman. How dare you use it blatantly in a place like this? My 36 million limited edition gemstones. Sulan was obviously not as angry as usual, his face was full of pain. How long have you been worried about the car? Well, it shouldn't be about me, but about Celine. Garen carefully recalled the scene just now, feeling that all the firepower was actually aimed at Celine. Indeed, as she said, those people came for her. Clang. Suddenly, under the sand dunes, there was a harsh sound of metal clashing from the direction of Celine. Garen and Sulan looked down and saw Celine fighting with a man in black. In addition, there were three masked men in black rushing towards Celine not far away. Help! Sulan shouted and rushed towards the bottom of the sand dune. Garen was a little slower and followed behind. Clang! Celine's face was solemn, and she turned over and landed on the sand. I don't know what thing in my hand can actually confront the opponent head-on. It's you again. She gently pulled out a silver belt from her waist with her little hands, which was more than 2 meters long, and shook it vigorously. The silver-white belt actually clicked and made a series of crisp sounds, turning into a long, straight, and hard stick. With two swish sounds, the tip of the stick flicked off two metal blades, and the belt turned into an exaggerated weapon like a trident in an instant. Celine waved her trident and drew several silver lines with a sneer. Bang! There was a gunshot, and a large cloud of bullets hit her from behind. Amidst the clanging sound of the impact, all the yellow sand on the surrounding ground sprayed out strangely. A large number of bullets were bounced and hit the ground. The yellow dust directly covered Xylan. Laugh. Not far away from Celine, a young man with long white hair pulled out 2 daggers from his thighs and rushed straight into the yellow sand without hesitation. Stop the other 2. Yes. The 3 men in black around them turned around and pounced on Garen and Sulan without any hesitation. The white-haired man rushed towards Celine quickly. His footsteps on the sand became faster and faster, faster and faster. Hiss. The leather boots suddenly made a black mark on the sand. The man's double daggers instantly combined and lengthened, turning into a short sword. The blade gradually reflected Shalin's petite figure. Flash, the man yelled, spinning his body and leaving a moon-white knife mark. Laugh. Clang. There was a bang. The yellow sand dust was suddenly shaken away, turning into a circle of yellow ripples that spread in all directions and gradually dispersed. The white-haired man holding a short knife was slashed and smashed into the sand. The dust dispersed, revealing Selene holding a trident. With a head of brown-red shawl hair blowing in the wind, Selene seemed to have suddenly changed from 6 or 7 years old to 18 or 19 years old. She held the trident tightly in one hand and covered her tall chest with the other hand. She had long legs and a slim waist, and her white jade-like skin was shining in the sun. The bottom reflects a jade-like luster. Sea King Fist, 10,000 Waters Blue King Kung Fu. Selene looked down at the white-haired man from a high position, as if there was a vast ocean rolling and roaring in her eyes. The trident pressing on the man's head flipped slightly. Clang. The white-haired man suddenly spattered countless blood arrows all over his body, his eyes filled with disbelief. The skin all over his body split into hundreds of blood holes in an instant, and all the arteries burst out and spurted blood, as if there was some huge pressure that was bursting him. How can you still do it? Before the man could finish his words, he fell back and breathed his last completely. Selene took back the trident and stared at the weapon in her hand, the turbulent color in her eyes quickly calmed down. Puff. She covered her mouth violently, but still couldn't suppress a mouthful of blood from spurting out. Thick blood dripped down from the edge of the palm. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 134. Are you okay? Garen walked to Selene carrying 2 men in black. You've actually gotten bigger. He looked at the voluptuous and seductive Selene in surprise. The clothes originally worn by the children turned into several pieces of cloth, which could only vaguely cover the key parts. When Selene used her hand to cover her mouth just now, the pieces of cloth almost fell off again. She was so frightened that she quickly grabbed her clothes. I'm fine. Don't come here. Xylin was a little frightened. She raised her trident on the ground and suddenly brought up a large amount of yellow sand, blocking Garen's sight. After more than 10 seconds, the dust slowly calmed down, and Selene looked like a 6 or 7-year-old child again, wearing tattered and stretched clothes, covered in blood, and her face was pale. With a slight leap, Selene flew up, landed on Garen's right shoulder and sat down. The trident in her hand also took advantage of this moment to return to its original belt. Garen frowned. Go back and explain it clearly, otherwise don't blame me for throwing you out. It's just an adapted version of the bone shrinking technique and the essence locking technique. My real body was seriously injured and I can't maintain it for a long time, so I can only move in this form, Selene replied in a low voice. Garen glanced at the corpse on the ground. What happened to them? My former enemy sent him, he just doesn't want me to live anymore, Selene explained simply, with a melancholy expression on her face. Garen knelt down and inspected the body of the white-haired man. The whole body of the corpse seemed to have had arteries cut by hundreds of knives at the same time, and there were dense red bloody mouths all over the body. The sand on the ground was also completely dyed red. One of my secret martial arts of the Sea King Fist is the 10,000 Waters Blue King Kung Fu. It's a pity that I can't use it for a long time, Selene said calmly. Garen did not reply, but found a white card with a red diamond 7 on it. Did you find anything? Selene rushed over from the side, also holding a red square in his hand, with the number 3 on it. I found this. Did you find it on your opponent? Garen asked. Selene nodded. We have heard about Weissman's card organization for a long time. I didn't expect to see them in the Federation. Solitaire organization? Can you find specific information? Garen asked in a low voice. It takes time. These people are brazenly daring to chase us. I won't swallow this breath easily, Selene sneered, After Ansara's matter has been solved, I will be responsible for investigating the card matter. Are you sure? This is not Wiseman, dare to act wild here. Does he think he is Ansara? Sulin said sarcastically. Don't worry, if you attack me, you are attacking our Bifadalaya family. You are provoking the entire Secret Service Bureau, fight against the government. No one who goes against the government will end well. Garen's face twitched and he wanted to say something, but he still didn't speak. Before that, Ansara must be resolved first. This is a matter of prestige for the Federation, Sulin said calmly. Okay, let's go back quickly. The car is broken down, so we can only take a ride or walk back, Celine interjected. Sulin nodded. Besides, you can't get away with this matter. Don't worry, I have no intention of running away, Celine curled her lips and replied. Despair. The teacup is placed gently on the black wooden table. Siblings Sulin and Arasi sat side by side, opposite Garen and Celine. The four of them sat opposite each other in a small study. Celine was bored and flipping through the pages of a large black book. Arasi was playing with a red raindrop-shaped jade in her hand, and looked up at Garen from time to time. Sulin and Galen turned sideways and looked out the window on the right. Through the glass window, they could clearly see the small open space outside. In the white clearing, Iridas was being yelled at by the eight-armed dragon King Yoda, who was holding a whip. Please straighten your hands. Yes, Iridas shouted. Don't stick your butt out. Yes. Snapped. The crack of the whip. You bastard, you can't understand human language? You can't stick your butt out? Do you understand what sticking out means? Yes. Holy shit, can you be any more stupid? Yoda didn't know why he became interested, and shouted loudly at Ilidas, who was standing upside down. It actually seemed like he was teaching him how to practice spear skills. Curses kept coming from outside the window. Garen withdrew his gaze and glanced at Celine next to him. This guy had a sly smile on his lips. There was a high chance that it was her fault. There is news about Ansara in the telegram. I asked you to come over as soon as I got it. Sulin put a hand on the table and tapped rhythmically. Tell me about it. Garen is now very interested in Ansara. To be precise, he is very interested in the golden sword holder in his hand. A piece of black cloth for wrapping things can still retain a little bit of the potential of an antique of doom. One can imagine how powerful and huge the potential it has. Perhaps this time it was the antique with the strongest potential for doom he had ever encountered. Sulin glanced at Jialong with some confusion. He was keenly aware of Jialong's changing attitude towards this matter. However, he readily accepted the change. The latest appearance of Ansalugo is on a car road to Shinjulugo, New Jura. Not only Galleon, but even Irasi was slightly surprised. Near the New Julugo over there in Xiphon province, Irasi asked in a low voice. That's it? I actually left the country. Xinjulugo is almost in a semi-closed state. It's not easy to deal with. Although that place is small, it has rich trade resources. The per capita income is much higher than that of the Federation. Irasi frowned. I also know a little bit. Garen nodded and said, Xinjulugo is rich in minerals and gems. I have only heard of it before, but I didn't expect Nshalugo to go so far away with the golden sword holder. This time the Federation established a special operations team, codenamed Zhanzhan. It gathered some masters specifically to deal with Ansara. All the masters that could be mobilized in the south were mobilized, Sulin explained. After seeing the strength of a fighter, there are also two fighters joining the operation, one of whom is from the Red Sand Sword. You should have heard of Garen. Oh? Red Sand Sword? Is it Bio? Garen looked confused. That's him. One of the two stars in the south, surpassing the sect leader and the Great Elder, the strongest warrior in the entire Red Sand Sword section. It is said that he is as famous as Andrila. Sulin nodded to confirm. What about Andrila? Garen suddenly recalled the proud man who fought with him. It is said that after the battle with you, I gained some insights and went to practice in the mountains. Now I have disappeared. That guy is a martial arts lunatic, and he doesn't care about anything in pursuit of martial arts. Solin sighed with emotion. When he appears again, he will definitely make great progress, Garen said with certainty. I also gained a lot from the first battle, otherwise I would not be able to resist Ansara in the battle. In fact, Andrila was more talented than him. If he didn't have the talent, Garen thought that he would never be able to match his improvement speed. Calculating, what level is Andrila at among fighters, Garen had never been very clear about Andrila's actual status and strength, so he simply took this opportunity to ask. I know this. I am an admirer of Lord Andrila. Irasi interjected. If I didn't like practicing swordsmanship, I would have entered the Star Ring sect to become a disciple. She cleared her throat. Lady Andrila's swordsmanship has surpassed all the masters in the Star Ring Gate except for the door owner Lorena Sia. As a fighter, overall she is at the upper middle level. Calculating carefully, as long as there are no masters from the previous generation, when a master comes forward, he is the top and strongest fighter of the younger generation. Oh, of course, now Master Garen, you are the strongest fighter of the younger generation. What I want to ask is all fighters, including the previous generation. Garen smiled bitterly and shook his head. Andrila I met a year ago. Suddenly, Celine on the side slowly spoke. She gently closed the tome in front of her and closed her eyes as if remembering. Even among the older generation, his strength at that time was at a very high level. If fighters are divided into 4 levels, upper, middle, lower, top, and top, he should be sprinting from the middle to the upper level now. Stage. He is rapidly approaching the top level of Ansara, Celine explained calmly. After my battle with you, I should be reaching the upper level soon. Garen was shocked. Is Ansara that the limit that humans can reach? Perhaps so. Ansara and the boxing masters of the previous generation who can be called saints have all reached the forefront of everyone. There is no one stronger than them. As human beings, they are indeed synonymous with the limit. Celine sighed, and suddenly her eyes fell on Garen. His eyes sparkled with a burning luster. Andrila is making crazy progress, Garen, aren't you worried? What are you worried about? Garen's heart skipped a beat. Celine smiled slyly. Your secret martial arts technique is only a very low-level third-rate secret martial art, Bayun giant elephant. With such a poor foundation, it is almost impossible for you to reach such a high level, but you have achieved it. But in the future, it will be impossible to do so again. Let's move forward. Are you willing? Everyone present heard a hint of her deep meaning. Neither of them made a sound, and their eyes focused on the two of them. Garen was silent. He really felt that Bayun's secret method had reached its theoretical limit. He had cultivated the secret martial art to its peak. Even if the founder of Bayun sect was reborn, it was unlikely that he could defeat him. But what imprisons him now is actually the level of secret martial arts. The secret martial arts level is too low. If you can have a more top-level secret weapon, like Star Ring Andrila, you will also have a chance to move towards the level of Anceloto. There was a hint of temptation in Celine's words. What are you going to do? Garen looked at her calmly. Become the guardian dragon king of my Neptune fist. Celine's smile was like a cunning little fox. I can teach you stronger secret martial arts techniques. Garen frowned. The offer was indeed very tempting to him. More advanced secret weapons, a more powerful future. But recalling the time when I promised teacher Fei Bayun, Bayun sect cultivated him, but now that the sect leader is comatose and unable to sleep, he is the only one who takes the lead. It's a pity that I was trained by my teacher, so it's impossible for me to switch to Sea King Fist, Garen said firmly. I would like to thank the Winged Demon's Vest for the 10,000 point reward. I won't go into details. This is a recognition of the story world in my heart. Mysterious Journey author, Gunkai. Chapter 135. The smile on Celine's face faltered. My Sea King Fist is a famous top sect in history. The secret martial arts are powerful for an era, and almost no one can surpass them. With your talent, if you get the secret martial arts, you may even reach unprecedented levels. Even the likes of Ansara can't. I am pursuing the ultimate realm of breakthrough. I have the top secret martial arts method that can allow you to reach the peak of hard Qigong and continue to practice. You have to think about it. Needless to say, it's impossible for me to switch to them. Garen flatly refused. Well, you are still young now, and you still have a chance to regret it. Celine lowered her voice with some regret. Let's put this topic aside for now. Can I ask, when do you plan to leave? Celine said in a low voice. Celine immediately whistled and her eyes drifted upward. As soon as Celine saw it, he knew that this guy was here. I plan to use this place as a refuge. Celine, Garen said in a deep voice. As the inheritor of the Sea King Fist, in addition to the secret martial arts of the Sea King Fist, you should also know many low-level secret martial arts of other schools, right? Low-level secret weapons. I know a lot. Why do you ask this? Celine lowered her head and asked in confusion. Don't you think you should pay some compensation for staying with us and treating us as free bodyguards? Garen winked at Celine. The latter understood immediately. Yes, we didn't agree to let you stay here. You will only cause us trouble if you stay here. Celine nodded repeatedly. If you don't want to be thrown out by us when you run into trouble, you have to give us something to satisfy us, right? Garen sneered. You want a low-level secret weapon? Xylin asked doubtfully. What do you use a low-level secret weapon for? It's useless. I wouldn't object if you could come up with a slightly more advanced secret weapon, but would you like that kind of thing? Garen shrugged. Okay, Xylin thought for a moment and agreed readily. What type of secret weapons do you want, and what type? I, the Sea King Fist, have quite a rich collection of secret weapons, please tell me. But let me remind you first that once the secret martial arts is chosen, it usually takes a very long time to practice, and it is impossible to practice it easily. After the age of 25, the speed of practice slows down significantly, and progress will be extremely difficult. Therefore, the first step must be taken well. It is best to have a higher level of secret martial arts, the better. And the highest secret martial arts here is the basic secret martial arts of the Sea King Fist, she added. The highest secret weapon? Is there a stronger secret weapon than Lord Andrilla? Irasi asked curiously. Of course. Celine showed a hint of pride on her face. Besides, I can only give Celine and Garen one set each, and the secret weapon of my Sea King Fist didn't fall from the sky for nothing. Well, I want a secret weapon that allows me to practice hidden weapons, Celine said immediately. I want a secret weapon with palm skills, Garen continued. Hidden weapons, palm skills. No problem, Celine nodded in agreement, but have you thought about it? This is your reward for protecting me and Illidis. Don't regret it? Of course, Celine replied immediately. Garen also nodded. The level is too low. Celine nodded with satisfaction. Don't worry, I will give you the first level first, and then I will give you the second level after you have completed your cultivation, and so on. Okay. Hurry up, the stabbing team will set off this afternoon, Celine urged. Why are you panicking? They can't even touch Ansara. That guy is not that cunning. I know a little bit about him and the specific situation, so I can't be wrong. Celine curled her lips. I'll give it to you first. Choose the secret weapon. Okay, now let's talk about the type of secret weapon you want and what path to take. Half an hour later, Garen and Celine returned to their rooms and began to pack their things, preparing to leave with the team in the afternoon. Both of them got two thin pieces of paper in their hands. It is densely filled with information about their respective secret martial arts. Garen sat on the bed in the bedroom, half lying down, looking up at the first page of the paper in his hand. The first line of words above clearly wrote my was name. The secret of Ruby. This is a complete set of secret martial arts, including specific fighting techniques of palm techniques, as well as practice methods and steps for special secret martial arts effects. Just like the giant elephant, secret martial arts includes Baiun fighting skills and explosive boxing skills. It's a whole set. Galen turned to the last note. Ruby palm, reaching the peak of Dachan, can make both palms hot and scorching. With the palm technique, it can easily ignite any flammable object. The heat of the palm can produce strong penetrating power, causing the enemy's own blood and internal organs to heat up, destroying them. Balance of hot and cold. Kill invisible. The essence of this article is the red jade palm, which is shaped like the fire jade snake among the highly venomous snakes. The fighting skills are divided into 3 snake shapes: wrapping, biting, and coiling. The 3 techniques correspond to evasive steps, offensive techniques, and defensive postures. Garen glanced at the light red skill bar at the bottom of his field of vision. One item of the Ruby Palm has been created unconsciously. Ruby Palm, uninitiated, 3 levels in total, practice conditions: Strength 0.7, Agility 1, Constitution 1.5, Intelligence 0.9. The conditions have been met. Do you want to practice? It seems that the most important thing for Ruby Palm is physical fitness. It actually requires a 1.5 to be qualified to practice. In other words, basically only people who are either extremely talented or have already taken training are qualified to practice. Added Long was thoughtful. After looking at the symbol on the back of the Ruby Palm asking whether to practice, Garen's eyes fell on the yes above and stayed there for 3 seconds. With a hiss, the symbol disappeared. The information on Ruby Palm on the paper in front of him seemed to be scanned, and the memory was quickly scanned into Garen's brain, and he quickly understood it thoroughly, as if he had been pondering it for a long, long time. Then, let's start with the introductory breathing method. Any secret martial arts requires breathing methods, specific postures, and even syllables to be practiced together. Some advanced ones also need external force as an introduction. This Ruby Palm belongs to the second-rate secret martial arts that is 1 level higher than the giant elephant secret martial arts. It is also one of the few secret martial arts that Xylin picked out after racking her brains and does not require external assistance. Although this kind of secret martial arts generally does not require external force, they all have one thing in common, that is, it is difficult. This is the secret martial art of ascetic monks. Garen slowly began to breathe according to the breathing method, and his huge lung capacity kept sucking out the air, and a subtle hissing sound was faintly heard in the room, like the hissing of a snake. It's morning now. In the afternoon, we will go to Shinjuluo and cooperate with the assassination team to hunt down Anshaluo. The lineup this time is luxurious. Even if Yoda is absent, the strength is much stronger than last time. Although Garen has never seen Baiu take action, he is definitely not comparable to ordinary fighters. There are 2 other masters who can be compared with him, at least D level, plus the Interpol. There are also special forces members working with thermal weapons. Garen thought that against this kind of lineup, all he needed was a Baiun to entangle him and a powerful thermal weapon, and even he would be miserable. Now that I have acquired a new secret weapon, which is more advanced than the giant elephant secret weapon, I can gain some strength by quickly getting started. As long as you get the golden sword seat. Garen's eyes flashed with heat. The golden sword seat has become a large number of attribute points in his eyes. Once obtained, he can quickly increase his physical fitness and skill level. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. New Jura. In the coniferous pine forest park, there are mirror-like lakes and winding rivers among a large sea of green trees. It's like a large green handkerchief with various patterns tattooed on it. In the park forest, a white path runs through the entire sea of trees. A road sign is erected at the entrance with Jaluo characters on it, road around the lake. In the middle section of Huanhu Road, 300 meters from the entrance. The bright sunshine formed golden beams of light, hanging down from the forest, illuminating a large, uneven open space between the pine forests. Around the open space were parked in twos and threes, black and white plaid police cars with flashing lights. Some of the police officers in black were pulling up a yellow cordon, while others were surrounding a deep pit in the middle of the open space. Someone was taking pictures with a big camera, and from time to time white smoke came out of the camera's flash amidst the banging sound. Some people were checking the details of the scene, while others were holding notebooks and recording something. The sound of a humming engine came from not far away, and another police car with a black and white plaid pattern drove over and stopped outside the cordon. There was a banging sound on the car door, and 3 young policemen, 2 men and 1 woman, got out. They were all wearing civilian clothes. They held their police officer ID cards in their hands and flashed them at the police officers on duty. Police Constable Joseph from the Emergency Management Bureau. Let me go over and have a look. These 2 are my colleagues. The police officer on duty frowned and looked at his police ID card. He immediately snapped his attention and saluted, and quickly moved out of the way. The man who calls himself Joseph is wearing a black leather coat, has light yellow skin, thick eyebrows, big eyes, and sunken eye sockets. He is similar to those company employees who work hard all day long in the company. He looks very serious. He led 2 colleagues to the edge of the pit, squatted down and looked inside. In the pit was a bloody male corpse. Half of the body had completely disappeared, as if something had torn it off. From the right shoulder to the right leg, everything had disappeared, leaving only soil stained red with blood. The identity of the deceased, Joseph stood up and asked. It's still under investigation. It can be found from the specific time and route, matching clothing and other places, but it will take time. The black police officer beside the pit stood up and answered. Are there any witnesses? No, it looks like some wild beasts have been moving around in some places. We initially suspect that they were attacked by wild beasts. Joseph rubbed his temples. Can the ranger be found nearby? Thompson has already gone to look for him. It may take a while. The woman who came with him came closer and replied in a low voice. This is the 3rd murder in 3 days, Joseph murmured in a low voice. Are you okay, Joseph? The woman beside him hugged him gently and kissed the side of his face. It's okay, Annie, Joseph responded by kissing the woman and letting go of her. Sir. Something has been discovered. Joseph hurried to the location where the police officer shouted, which was the green grassland under a big pine tree. On the green grass, a white ID card fell quietly. Joseph knelt down, put on plastic gloves and gently picked it up. Take it back and check for fingerprints. Yes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 136. Garin stood in the bedroom, slowly drawing 2 circles with his hands, and kept drawing them in the air in front of him, as if he was stirring something. Slowly, he pushed forward slightly and stopped his movement. A trace of red suddenly appeared on both palms, and it disappeared in an instant. It's done, Ruby Palm. Such a powerful method. The basic secret martial arts effect is achieved, but the fighting skills still need to be gradually honed and familiarized. Now I can only be considered proficient. Although he has entered the level of a fighter and his understanding of fighting skills is far beyond ordinary people, he must practice fighting skills to an almost instinctive level in order to achieve the strongest effect of fighting. Slowly closing his momentum, Garin was also looking forward to the power of the Ruby Palm. Then he looked at the skill bar in his field of vision. The Qi Yin Kung skill disappeared again and merged into the Ruby Palm. Carnelian Palm, Beginner, Known Level 1, Burning Strength Level 1, Red Yin Skill, Physical Strengthening Level 1, Red Yin Skill. I don't know how powerful the ruby palm is when used. This is the ruby palm that has been strengthened by the red yin kung fu. Garen slowly adjusted his energy and blood and got out of the state of practicing the ruby palm. He has never had the opportunity to use the enhanced ruby palm in actual combat. However, I feel that once the ruby palm is used, the lethality of confronting him will definitely become much stronger. After all, he knew the power of Qi Yin Kung. Now the power has been strengthened, and there is a set of powerful palm techniques specially used together, which is even higher than Bayun's fighting skills. There is also a 0.3 agility enhancement. Garen can feel the improvement in his strength. At the level of a fighter, his physical fitness has often reached its limit and it is difficult to improve further. Generally, at this level, the distinction between strength and weakness is based on the power of the technique, the level of fighting, and experience, skills, etc. to determine. Because a fighter's physical fitness is always maintained at the extreme level for a certain quality, he must spend a lot of time every day to maintain his physical condition. Otherwise, physical adaptability is the so-called sailing against the current. If he does not advance, he will retreat. Only Garen has a terrifying innate ability that always solidifies his physical condition, and he can also rely on attribute points to forcibly improve attributes that have reached their peak. This improvement is terrifying. In the eyes of a fighter, any slight advantage will continue to amplify and become a chasm-like gap. Sometimes the difference is just a little bit, which is the difference between life and death. Not to mention an agility of 0.3. After arranging his clothes, Garen collected his thoughts, opened the door and went out. Not far away, Sulin was leaning against the corridor wall, chatting with Yoda. Celine, on the other hand, was beating and guiding Ilidas with a stick. She seemed to be very attached to Ilidas for some unknown reason. "Are you ready?" Celine looked back at Garen. "No problem," Garen nodded. "But you plan to go too?" "Of course, if I didn't go, how could you possibly catch that guy Anceloto? He is not as simple as you think." Celine curled her lips and said. "When will we leave?" "The person who is waiting for the assassination will leave first." Xylan glanced at Sulin, who was not far away. Several people were doing their own thing in the spacious open space on the side of the small building. This was a gap between the two buildings. Only a larger space was left to build a small training ground. Not long after, the sound of soldiers mobilizing and cars starting came from the manor. Several people looked at each other in unison, quickly dropped what they were doing, walked to the entrance and exit of the gap, and looked at the grass in the center of the manor. The brigade of soldiers was mobilized, and military vehicles drove out of the manor one by one. A white car was surrounded by a large number of heavily armed soldiers. At this time, 4 people in different attires were getting on the bus. Some of the 4 were dressed as martial artists, and some were officers. The most eye-catching one was a young man with blue hair, eyebrows, and eyes. This man was wearing blue clothes, with a blue sword hanging from his waist, and he had an unusually cold temperament. Garen recognized him at a glance. "That's Bio. He really broke through. The last time I saw him, he was still one step behind Andrilla, and now he has broken through." "How long has it taken?" Garen said with emotion. "No matter how fast you are, it's not as fast as you." Sulin shook his head speechlessly. "Bio must have been stimulated by the battle between you and Andrilla. It is said that after your battle, Bio said that he would wait until the time is right to formally challenge you. Now he clearly knows that you are here, but still doesn't come over. He obviously thinks that he is not strong enough. In other words, when he challenged me, he must have thought that he was better than Andrilla," Garen said softly. "This new generation of masters in the south is not easy to wear. You have to be careful about other challengers in the future." Sulin glanced at Garen. "Celine, since you said you can find Ansara, then you can lead the way." Garen looked at Celine beside him. Celine frowned and stared at the assassination team leaving, seeming to be thinking about something. "No hurry, Let's follow them, don't get too close, just follow. Since we have separated from the team, what is happening now is our private action. Although the two generals must know, they both acquiesce. It's obvious that we want to add a layer of insurance. After all, we won't make such a big show of things like them. With galleons here, it can be regarded as a second layer of insurance. That's fine, you can arrange everything anyway, Garen shrugged. But what will happen if we encounter Ansara again? Sulin was a little worried. I'll do it then, Garen said solemnly, I just had some insights from the last battle. As long as you don't get hit by his 7 dragon gates continuously, you'll be fine. Indeed, Celine nodded affirmatively. Everyone watched the motorcade slowly drive away from the manor until they could no longer see the shadows, and then they walked out of the building. Okay, let's set off. If you encounter Ansara, please pay attention to your own safety. We are here to watch the fun, not to fight with him. Of course I know that. I'll arrange the carriage. Go directly to the military airport. Sulin walked out first, Garen followed, and Celine jumped on Garen's shoulders. Yoda and Iris were left watching the 3 people leave, with Iris still looking a little worried in her eyes. Brother is the weakest among them, why do you have to join in the fun this time? Yoda grinned, don't worry, although Sulin is not strong, compared to a fighter, he is already a very strong master for ordinary people. Besides, he also has a trump card. No, so simple. True card, Iris looked at Yoda in confusion. In some people's language, he is also a talented person. Yoda's eyes were full of meaning. May 13, 2987. Shinjura Matsuyama City. 1 day later. Snapped. In the Songshan City Police Station office, Joseph slapped the conference table with an angry face. He stared hard at the police officers sitting around him. Everyone here, I guarantee with my personality, Joseph said word for word, something big will definitely happen tonight. Calm down, Joseph. The middle-aged police officer sitting in the main seat frowned and said, without any evidence or any clues, you want us to approve your deployment of special police to blockade the building in the city center? You must understand that it belongs to our Songshan city. In the core area, once something happens, it can instantly amplify and affect the whole city. This is not child's play. Sir Jane, Okay, needless to say, Joseph, you are indeed very capable, but you were really too reckless in this matter. Those 3 cases made you lose your cool. You'd better go down and rest. First officer and stood up and said calmly, and left directly. Laugh. A fat white police officer opposite Joseph stood up and glanced at Joseph mockingly. Don't be too impulsive, Officer Joseph. Several people around also smiled and shook their heads. There will be a murder in the central building? Ha! This is the most ridiculous thing I have heard this year. Another lanky male police officer walked past Joseph and laughed unabashedly. Soon, only Joseph was left in the entire conference room. He clenched his fists and stood in his position without saying a word. Joseph, you have to remember. You are different from others. The world you can see is much wider than them. That is your talent. It is the innate talent of our Hylarita family. His grandfather's last words echoed in his mind again. Listen carefully. Close your eyes and listen to the whispers of the night. His grandfather's weak but firm words came to his ears again. Joseph slowly closed his eyes without realizing it and listened carefully to the sounds that his ears could hear. Ding, 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 ding. It was the sound of a record player coming from an office outside. There was also the sound of the whistling wind, the rustling of leaves in the distance outside, the sound of the car's engine, and the footsteps of police officers passing by in the corridor. He could even hear his breathing, heartbeat, and the thin sound of blood flowing in his pulse. Joseph listened attentively. Gradually, all the sounds quieted down one by one, leaving only a faint sound of music. The somewhat hoarse music gradually became more layered, and the hissing sound of the electric current inside became louder and louder unknowingly. Hiss. Hiss, hiss. Hiss. This is. Joseph frowned. The music gradually changed again. Someone seemed to be whispering amid the hiss of electricity. Hiss. Ah, hiss. My dearest baby. Hiss. Come to my arms, my dearest sis. The sweet whispers that changed the tone seemed to be mixed with screams of fear, which seemed strange and inexplicable. Joseph felt a chill all over his body, and when he opened his eyes, a pale woman's face was facing his. Call. He took 2 steps back in horror. Blinking his eyes, there was nothing in front of him, and the conference room was empty and quiet. He almost fell down on his seat, put his hands in his hair, panted heavily, and after a while, he shook his head hard. She will always appear when you close your eyes. This is the price of listening, he murmured unknown words in a low voice. Standing up suddenly, he grabbed a document on the table and strode out of the conference room. He couldn't just watch the tragedy happen. Even if no one supports him, he still has 2 companions. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 137. Click. With a solemn expression, Joseph loaded the shotgun and flushed it into the barrel. We must stop them. At 0 o'clock tonight, they will hold a grand hunting ceremony. It must be before 0 o'clock. Otherwise, the entire Songshan city will be in danger. In a small basement, under the dim light, there were 2 other people, a man and a woman, also looking at Joseph with guns in hand. Joseph, are you crazy? Thompson's eyes were filled with confusion, surprise, and deep worry. Nothing will happen to the central building. Are you going too far? The police station has sent people to be on guard in case anything happens. Hey man. Listen, Joseph pressed his shoulder. Do you believe me? He looked into Johnson's eyes. Of course. We grew up together and are best brothers, Johnson answered affirmatively. No one believes me, no one. Joseph took a deep breath. I know this reason is ridiculous, but I still have to ask you, Johnson, my brother. And my baby. Tonight, only tonight, we have to go somewhere to stop them. Stop what? Annie interjected and asked. I believe you, Joseph, but what can we do for you? Her eyes were full of worry and love. You are not alone, you have us. Joseph took several deep breaths and quickly removed 3 small brown leather bags from his waist. Keep one for yourself and give the other 2 to the 2 of them. Bring this with you. Remember. Don't let this skin leave your side. Anytime, anywhere. Don't leave the skin behind. This time we are not facing ordinary characters. Without this, no one can confront them head on. What is this? Annie shook the skin bag gently, and there was a faint sound of water inside. This is pure water. It is something that can restrain them. As long as there is this aura, they will be weakened within 10 meters of the surrounding area. Remember, never let this leave you. Never. Are we going to enter some mysterious horror novel? Johnson joked with a dry smile. How about I find a few more people? My cousin is a boxing expert. Amateur 6th Dan. The vice president of the local boxing association. It's no use. I've also asked for help, but it's no use. Joseph shook his head. They are not human beings. He felt chills all over as he recalled the scene at that time. Anne and Johnson looked at each other, and both heard a hint of pain in Joseph's words. Buzz. In the afternoon, the sky turned a bit gray and pale. The green hills all over the mountains and plains are like green blankets. Between the ups and downs, there is a yellow river meandering, like a yellow ribbon, stretching into the distance. A 4-winged white plane was gliding slowly over the hills, its engine making a subtle buzzing sound. The plane flew over a large waterfall in the river, and the sound of rushing water came from below. The yellow-white waterfall splashed a large amount of white water vapor, which almost rushed to the bottom of the fuselage. The side door of the plane was wide open, and Garin, wearing a t-shirt and jeans, sat by the door and looked down. "Where is this?" he asked loudly. The person piloting the plane was actually Sulin. His red hair was styled with normal bangs, he wore a gold earring in one ear, and he was humming some off-key songs. "We are about to enter Shinjaluo. We will fly for another half hour. There is a private landing pad in front where we can refuel and rest." "So beautiful." Celine looked down at the huge waterfall from the other side of the hatch. "Is this the Julia Falls on the border between New Jaluo and the Federation?" "Yes, if we go here, according to our speed, we will reach the location where Ansara last appeared, Black Rock City, in 3 hours," Sulin replied casually. "Actually, there is no need for you to come. This operation may be very dangerous," Garin whispered, looking at Sulin in front of him. "It's okay, don't underestimate me. Although I'm not as perverted as you, I'm still safe if I escape," Sulin grinned, showing his white teeth. "Sure enough, I have already smelled the scent of the assassination team." Celine suddenly sniffed and said, "The scent of the assassination team will not last more than half an hour. At such an altitude, they should have taken off again. According to the time calculating the route, they should take off again from the apron," Sulin mentioned, "and the direction is about 30 degrees northeast of where we are now." Sulin whistled. "So accurate? Even a dog would be ashamed of himself compared to you." "Go to hell." Celine was furious, and she rushed over, grabbed Sulin's neck and shook her violently. The plane suddenly shook. Garin sat firmly in the back and shook his head speechlessly. From the moment they set out from the manor, he and Sulin had truly seen Celine's super talent. An almost perverted sense of smell. Celine memorized the auras of the slashing team and Ansara, and could hang firmly behind them without following closely. The interval in between cannot exceed 1 hour and a certain distance. In addition, they knew the route of the assassination team, and they didn't even lose a single step. Looking at the scenery below in boredom, Garin simply closed his eyes and began to slowly practice secret martial arts according to the breathing method of Ruby Palm. The Ruby Palm that I started with yesterday can be quickly upgraded to a terrifyingly powerful effect as long as I get more attribute points. This is the only thing Garin is looking forward to the most. These days, he has noticed a problem. The superposition of low-level secret weapons is not necessarily a completely good change. He just got another very common lowest-level secret weapon from Xylan, which was about practicing leg techniques. But unfortunately, this secret martial art requires physical flexibility. Although Garin was introduced to it, it was directly integrated with the original Giant Elephant secret martial arts, and then remained unchanged without any change. He guessed that this might be because the characteristics of Maiwa were completely opposite, or most of them overlapped, which was not helpful to the Giant Elephant Maiwa. Later, when I asked Celine about the secret weapon to strengthen her body, she was at a loss. There are very few secret weapons that do not require external force, so being able to find so many of them is a sign of her extraordinary memory. Garin had no choice but to wait and go to the Nantian Holy Fist sect headquarters to inquire later. "But before that, we must first get the golden sword seat." Garin's eyes flashed with enthusiasm. "The golden sword seat is of no use to others. As long as it is used in the ruins, it will always lose its main role. Then when the slashing and stabbing team deals with Ansara, they may be able to get it. But before that..." He rubbed his palms together, and a bright red flashed across the back of his hands. "I have completely mastered the Ruby Palm. With the powerful physical hard Qigong of the Giant Elephant secret martial arts, plus the secret martial arts effect of the Ruby Palm itself, after a head-on confrontation, I want to see if it is your 7-Dragon Gate that is stronger, or my Giant Elephant secret martial arts combined with the power of Red Jade Palms. Being able to compete with the top masters of the previous generation at the peak level is undoubtedly an absolute temptation for warriors." What warriors pursue is their own sublimation and evolution, and they constantly challenge their own limits. This is the true warrior. The same is true for Garen. There have always been too few people who can truly confront him head-on, and Ansara allowed him to experience the mysterious and unpredictable ancient martial arts like the Seven Dragons Gate. Both are at the pinnacle of hard Qigong, and Anshaluo has mastered a deeper level of soft energy than him. The Seven Dragon Gate is not very powerful, but its terrifying effect that can make people freeze is definitely a killer weapon. Garen is determined to go head-to-head with Ansara this time. Look at the combination of the three sets of secret martial arts based on the peak hard Qigong of the mutant giant elephant secret martial arts, the superimposed ruby palm, and the strengthening of the red yin martial arts. How strong are the mutated ruby palms together? And with the key agility attribute added by a full 0.3 points, Garen can clearly feel that he should be able to keep up with Ansara's shooting speed. Ansara's speed is not very fast among fighters, his strength is not very strong, and his defensive Qigong is not very strong. But the integration of all these things actually turned into a quasi-perfect form, without any loopholes. He is faster than a strength-type warrior, and more powerful than a speed-type warrior, and his moves are as coherent as mercury flowing down the ground, seamless. But no matter how strong he is still too old after all. It is impossible to explode for a long time. Even so, Garen was not sure of defeating him. If Xylan hadn't told him a trick to deal with the Seven Dragon Gate to save his life, he would not have dared to pursue Ansara head-on this time. Half an hour later, the white plane descended slowly, drew a diagonal line and landed on a brown muddy apron below. It rushed forward for hundreds of meters before finally stopping. The rotating propeller on the nose of the plane whirled a few times before finally stopping. The tarmac was a huge reddish-brown circle. Several soldiers in dark green military uniforms rode over on horseback. Each of them held a small book in his hand, which seemed to be recording the aircraft's information and numbering time. The other man got off his horse and waved to the other soldiers who were coming from a short distance away. "Sir, how can I add it?" He looked at Garen, who jumped off the plane. "Ask me about the one at the back, I don't know these things." Garen shrugged. Sulin jumped down. "Grensa's number 7 is fully loaded. We'll be leaving in a moment. Is there anything to eat here?" "Absolutely, but they are all specialties here." The soldier rubbed his hands and laughed. "How about we find 2 indigenous women?" "Indigenous people? Are there any indigenous people here?" Celine jumped down from the cabin and kept combing her long hair. "Well, this Syrian forest is very big, and there are many primitive tribes in it. We just caught some indigenous women." When he saw the little girl, the soldier shut up and did not dare to say more. "I'll go greet them first and get ready." He smiled sheepishly and turned to leave. Celine nodded and watched the soldiers gradually walk away. This apron was purchased and built by Xianjulo's Sharp Blade Security Company. "Doesn't it actually look decent?" Garen looked to Celine aside. "What happened? What did you find?" Celine suddenly sniffed and looked a little confused. "The directions are divided." "What direction?" Garen asked. The directions of Jean 11 and Anshaluo were separated. They went in 2 different directions. Xylan raised her face and looked at Garen. "Where are we going?" At this time, it is natural that the most powerful Garen takes the lead. Sulin also looked at Garen, as if letting him decide. "Follow Ansara." Garen didn't expect this to happen and took a deep breath. It's only a matter of time before the assassination team will find out. As long as we keep up with Ansara, we can get together sooner or later. Sulin and Celine both nodded in agreement. "Fill up the gas and leave after eating." Sulin made arrangements immediately. "Try to catch up with Ansara before dark." "Is it possible?" Garen looked at him doubtfully. "No problem. This is my most cherished Daphne Collection limited edition No 1043, Sulin grinned, showing his white teeth. "How many limited editions do you have?" Garen was speechless. This is a secret, just like a woman's age. Celine patted him on the shoulder and walked towards a row of small buildings on the edge of the tarmac. Do you want any women later? Celine asked Garin with her face raised. Forward. Order 2 for me. Garin watched speechlessly as Celine jumped up and down to catch up with Sulin. I'm kidding you, haha. Celine ran away before laughing. Garin followed helplessly. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 138. After eating and refueling, Garin and his party continued to change course along the breath left by Ansara. The small white plane flew over the sea of trees for more than 2 hours. Finally, white roads gradually appeared in front and below. The lanes were more and more intertwined, and they were as eye-catching as a spider web. The sky gradually darkened. The 3 people got off the plane and slowly descended in the direction guided by the radio signal, landing at an oval gray-white airport below. This is it, Ansara landed here before, Celine said with certainty. Garin and Sulin looked down and saw 7 or 8 planes parked at the airport below, of different sizes. 4 of them were small planes, 1 was completely blue, and the rest were either brown or white. Celine pointed to the small blue plane. It's that plane. He should have left less than half an hour ago. Land, we will follow immediately, Garin said in a deep voice. Sulin had no objection and began to slowly descend in preparation for landing. Someone at the airport below was already waving white flags to guide the landing direction. New Jura. In a pine forest on the outskirts of Songshan City. Nighttime. From time to time there was the sound of grass being stirred in the pine forest, the hoot of an owl could be heard faintly from a distance, and a pale sickle moon hung quietly in the sky, casting a faint moonlight. The tall dark green pine trees stand tall and straight, the shortest ones are 20 or 30 meters tall, like long straight sticks rising from the ground. There are large gaps between each pine tree, and the ground is covered with dense yellow-green weeds. 3 dark figures in the forest were cautiously moving towards the hidden depths of the pine forest. Be careful, Annie, hold my hand. Don't step there. It will leave big footprints. A man's voice sounded very low. Joseph, what are we doing here about the central building? Another man among the 3 asked in a low voice. If we don't come here, we can't stop those guys. Joseph glanced at his 2 companions. These monsters will hold hunting prayers here. The central building will be their hunting ritual point. We must destroy it after they leave. That prayer altar. Altar. Yes, as long as there is no altar, their tradition will be destroyed, and there will be no point in continuing to hunt, Joseph said affirmatively. But his voice was a little trembling. Anne held his hand tightly. Don't worry, Joseph, we'll be fine. In fact, she and Johnson didn't believe in hunting or prayer at all. They simply trusted Joseph and allowed him to do whatever he wanted. They didn't believe in any monsters, but since Joseph was so sure, something was bound to happen. Because Joseph was different, only he was special. Call. Suddenly, a bonfire suddenly lit up in a clearing deep in the pine forest. There was a huge white cow skull on the fire. The skull was 5 or 6 meters high and 3 or 4 meters wide. It seemed to be made of many bones. The bonfire became more and more intense, and the flames almost reached a height of more than 3 meters. Some vague black figures surrounded the bonfire, each of them strong and powerful, turned out to be tall men and women with bronze skin. The men's upper bodies were bare-chested and tied with black tube tops, and their lower bodies were all wearing black leather pants. Each of them had long hair disheveled and had more or less black lines on their faces. At this time, the faces of this group of people were illuminated by the firelight, and each of them looked solemn. Each of them took a knife and took turns to make a wound on his arm, and then dipped his own blood and dabbed it on his face. After everyone has finished applying. 500 years have passed since the hunting tradition reached our generation. An old man standing by the fire said in a low voice, "Don't forget the glory of our ancestors. Remember what I just said." Elder, where are those damn hound bugs? I seem to have smelled their scent some time ago, the tallest and strongest whip man asked in a low voice. They left, so I took this opportunity to hold a hunt so as not to be disturbed by them, the old man replied. If there was no damn pure water, I could kill them all by myself. These damn bugs, the whip man looked gloomy. Who's there? Suddenly the elder's nose twitched, as if he smelled something, and turned to look at the hiding place of Joseph and the others. Boom! Gunfire rang out. A figure beside the bonfire fell down in response, but immediately the rest of the people dispersed and rushed towards the direction of Joseph and the three of them. Bang bang bang. 3 more gunshots were heard from the side. Surprisingly, they were not from the direction of Joseph and the others, but from the woods on the other side. More than a dozen figures in black cloaks quickly rushed out. Each of these people held shotguns in their hands and moved quickly and continuously towards the bonfire. Woo! Suddenly, the man who was first hit by the gunfire beside the campfire turned over, and a large amount of black hair gradually grew on his body. In just a few blinks, he turned into a giant wolf covered in black hair. He looked up to the sky and shouted, "Black Wolf!" He rushed towards the crowd in black cloaks like crazy. There was a loud sound of gunfire, and a large number of bullets were quickly avoided by the Black Wolf. Ah! A man in black cloak was knocked down, and half of his body was torn off by the Black Wolf's claws. The wolf's mouth bit off the man's head. Soon there was another wolf howl, and the other people around the bonfire all turned into half-wolves and quickly rushed towards the black-cloaked crowd. Damn it! It's the Tuk tribe, the man in the black cloak started to panic. Soon, several more people were knocked down by half-werewolves and black wolves, and were torn into pieces several times. But soon, there were also a few guys who transformed into black wolves, with black smoke coming out from their bodies, looking up to the sky and screaming, and they didn't know what they were being hit by. The things were dried up, and some of them fell to the ground and died while still in mid-air, turning into a puddle of black water. It's actually the Tuk tribe. Everyone, retreat, the leader in black cloak shouted anxiously. The pure water they brought was not enough. The Tuk tribe was much more resistant to pure water than other similar tribes. The pure water that could kill 3 other tribes was only enough to kill one here. Without pure water, the strength of these monsters will be fully unleashed and they will become at least twice as terrifying. The uninhibited Tuks are almost invincible. Retreat! Retreat! A group of men in black cloaks retreated while shooting. Black wolves and half-werewolves, led by Whip Werewolf, continued to pursue them. Both sides struggled in the pine forest, each suffering injuries. The other side of the pine forest. Garin Surin followed Celine in the forest. If it hadn't been getting late, the 3 of them would still be dressed up during the day, looking more like they were on an outing. Celine sniffed and sniffed as she led the way. Ansara passed along here, he must be in front. You have already taken us through many detours. If we really can't find it, just forget it and go directly to the ruins tomorrow. Celine yawned and whispered. No, if you don't follow us today, we will definitely lose you. I wasn't sure at first, but now I'm sure that Ansara is definitely not going to the so-called ruins. He has another purpose, Celine said with certainty. With another purpose, Garin frowned. There's someone in front, Celine suddenly shouted, looking straight ahead. In the darkness ahead, a man in a black cloak slowly walked out. Who are you? The area ahead is blocked by the National Security Agency. You can't go any further. The man frowned and said in a deep voice. The expressions of the 3 of Garin were a little strange. Xylan and Sulin slowly backed away, and Garin took a step forward. Didn't you hear what I said? It's very dangerous ahead. You can't go any further. And you? You too, get out of here immediately. The man in the black cloak also looked at a big pine tree in front of the Garan trio. The trunk of the big pine tree blocked a figure in a black cloak, who slowly walked out from behind the trunk. He looked at the three of Garen calmly. The three Garen men also stared at him solemnly. The four of them were completely too lazy to pay attention to the man in the black cloak who was still shouting, and all their attention was focused on each other. "You are still chasing me?" Ansara's voice came out from under the cloak, with a hint of hoarseness and heaviness. "Hand over the golden sword seed. Although I know this is unlikely, I still have to say it in advance." Garen now became the leader of the three, his eyes fixed on Ansara. This man was a top powerhouse who had defeated two federal generals in a heavy siege, defeated himself head-on, and was able to calmly leave the siege. Even now that he has become stronger, he does not dare to underestimate the other party. "You are also here for the golden sword seed." Ansara was a little surprised. "Do you think you can stop me on your own?" "You'll know if you try it," Garen said solemnly. Snort. Ansara snorted, tiptoed, and quickly retreated into the darkness. Garen also kept up with him quickly. His speed increased by 0.3, and his current speed was not much slower than Ansara. Celine and Sulin were not too slow either. They followed Garen and disappeared into the darkness equally quickly. The person left behind in the black cloak looked furious. "A warrior who has practiced martial arts? Do you think warriors are great? This time it has nothing to do with me. It is you who broke in without listening to the advice. Without pure water, even warriors are vulnerable. Neither are the warriors who have been eaten by monsters. There are two batches. You are seeking death on your own." Deep in the pine forest, Joseph and the three of them watched in horror as the half-wolf and the black giant wolf fought fiercely with the black cloak. The two sides fought with blood and flesh flying everywhere, and it was extremely brutal. Johnson and Anne, in particular, had never seen such a terrifying and bizarre situation before. At this time, they were all completely stunned, huddled in the grass and did not dare to move. "Joseph, tell me, what on earth is going on? Am I dreaming?" Johnson asked, stammering. "This is reality, Johnson. If I guess correctly, those black cloaks should be demon hunters. The guys they are dealing with are the legendary, powerful and terrifying werewolf tribe. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 139. Werewolf. Although Annie and Johnson had guessed it, they still couldn't accept it. Werewolves are infinitely powerful, have extremely strong vitality, and are extremely terrifying in their fighting ability. We humans were their slaves in ancient times and only existed as blood food for them. It was not until later that we discovered pure water, Joseph explained in a deep voice. Pure water can greatly weaken the strength and vitality of the wolves, reducing them to a level that we humans can deal with. Is this it? Anne took out the small bag that Joseph gave her earlier. That's it? Take it with you carefully. Now that you've seen it all with your own eyes, you should completely believe it, right? Joseph's real intention was actually to make his friends and girlfriend truly believe in him. Only by seeing it with your own eyes can you truly believe the somewhat absurd reality of it all. I just didn't expect the Witcher to arrive at such a coincidence. The most powerful thing about us humans is our ability to use tools, Joseph whispered. Okay, now that the demon hunters have appeared, we can leave safely. It was the first time for Johnson and Anne to see so many dead people, and they felt a little chilly, so they naturally had no objections. The three of them began to retreat slowly. At this moment, a black shadow quickly ran past the three of them, heading straight into the battlefield between the werewolves and demon hunters. Just 2 breaths later, another figure followed closely. If you want the golden sword seed, then catch up with me first. A hoarse and deep old voice sounded in the forest. It was from the black shadow in front. Humph! The figure who was chasing after him snorted coldly, and suddenly accelerated a little faster. Oh! "You're faster than last time." The hoarse old voice was a little surprised. Joseph and the other three stared in astonishment as the two men chased each other and rushed directly to the core of the battlefield. "Are they also Witchers?" Johnson asked in a low voice. "No, it's not. They don't smell of pure water. They are warriors among humans." Joseph frowned. "Woo." A half-werewolf covered in black fur looked up to the sky and howled, staring hard at Ansara and Garen. "Warrior? Hey, it's been a long time since I've eaten the meat of a warrior. How dare you rush over to seek death without pure water?" With a gasp, he rushed out. At this time, Ansara was finally caught up by Garen. The two collided hard and flew forward at the same time. Boom! Garen and Ansara's arms collided hard. Single shot form. Throw. Garen's right arm suddenly stabbed Ansara's chest like a poisonous snake. The moment he approached the opponent, his arm suddenly turned into an upward swing, and his 5 fingers came together like a knife, stabbing Ansara's chin fiercely. Snapped. Ansara slapped the opponent with one hand, and slapped Garen hard with the other hand. Boom! Garen grunted and flew backwards, just in time to meet the charging black werewolf. The black werewolf roared and slammed into Garen. "Get away!" Bang! Tear! The entire black werewolf was suddenly torn in half, and in the rain of blood, Garen rushed towards Anchalugo again without saying a word. With a dull clashing sound, the two fell to a place on the grass and stood still. Without the slightest hesitation, the two sides charged together fiercely again, and the banging sound of their arms echoed in the forest like shotgun blasts. The fight between the werewolf and the demon hunter was directly cut off by the two. Some stray bullets hit the two of them, and actually sent out little golden sparks, which was useless at all. All the surrounding creatures were stunned. The werewolves stopped, and the demon hunters lowered their guns. All three people, including Joseph, stared blankly at the violent fight between Garen and Ansara. The two of them had no eyes for anything but looking at each other, and they fought with ferocity. "Dismantle whatever you encounter." The thickly encircled pine trees continued to fall down, and large and small pits began to appear on the ground, like bombs exploding. Bang! A figure was severely knocked away and hit a large pine tree before he could stand still. This man was none other than Garen. His shirt was in tatters and the pine trees behind him had numerous cracks. He actually looked as if nothing had happened. With a cold snort, Garen once again fit in and pounced. The two fought fiercely again. Anything Garen's arm hits will be torn apart by a violent vibration, while Ansara's arm will break in two if it hits anything. The two arms collided, as if they were not flesh and blood, but 4 hard and terrifying weapons. "Okay, okay. You are worthy of being a general of this generation. I recognize your strength." And Shalugo made a slight backward jump and actually jumped more than 10 meters away, landing lightly on a horizontal tree trunk. "If you want the golden sword seat, come to Dal Falls. I'll wait for you there." "Want to run?" Garen's eyes were full of excitement. During the battle with Ansara, his grasp of the ruby palm became stronger and stronger. If he continued to fight, he thought he would definitely become more familiar with it, although inside most of them have the function of innate abilities and his understanding of fighting skills after becoming a fighter. But it is undeniable that only real combat can continuously improve one's strength. Without hesitation, he rushed forward quickly. However, Anchalugo jumped down and fell into a crowd of werewolves. Snapped. With a gentle slapping sound, a black werewolf unexpectedly rushed out and pounced on the chasing Garen. There was still a hint of surprise on its own face. Bang! The black werewolf was flung away and rolled more than 10 meters away. Half of his body was beaten to pieces, and his flesh and blood were blurred. He fell to the ground and howled miserably. Not only the werewolves, but also the demon hunters felt chills in their hearts. "You want to use this garbage to stop me?" Garen narrowed his eyes, a trace of anger flashing across his face. Rubbish! What a loud tone! A trace of anger flashed in the eyes of the elder among the werewolves. Not to mention the rest of the werewolves. Without pure water, it's just livestock. Before he could finish his words, he only saw Garin glance over, and a terrifying pressure suddenly fell on him. Garin's eyes seemed to be flashing with red light, and a huge red-eyed giant elephant seemed to twist and expand around his body. The giant elephant was tens of meters tall, and there seemed to be violent airflow and wind around it, wrapping all creatures within tens of meters. The elder trembled all over, his face turned pale, and he actually exited the half-wolf form and fell to his knees with a thud. "We are the Great Tuk tribe," the elder frantically tried to stand up, but could not move at all. The bones in his body creaked. In the eyes of outsiders, Garin just glanced at the elder, and the elder put away his transformation and fell to his knees, as if suppressed by some invisible force. He tried hard to get up but couldn't get up at all. Ansara was hidden in his cloak and could not see any change in his expression. He just kept throwing all the werewolves towards Garin, like throwing goods. At the same time, he was also retreating rapidly. Bang bang bang. Amidst the continuous collisions, Garin roared and tried to catch up, but was always blocked by flying werewolves at critical moments. His speed was originally a little slower than the other party, but in the end, he could only watch Ansara sink into the darkness and disappear. Snort. Garin hit the big tree next to him with his palm, and with a click, a large amount of wood slag flowed out from the thick tree trunk like sand. There was a big white gap missing from the tree trunk, and it suddenly fell to the other side. At this time, most of the original werewolves of the Tuk tribe had been seriously injured by him when he was chasing them. The injuries of these werewolves recovered very quickly. Some of the werewolves who were only stumps had their wounds closed and stopped bleeding. They quietly took advantage of the increase in speed. Long didn't pay attention to them, quietly collected the corpses of the elders and tribe companions, and slowly retreated to the distance in the forest. Celine and Sulin were standing next to Joseph and the others at some point. It seems that he has been watching the battle from the beginning to the end. Looking at Garin in the distance, Sulin smiled bitterly. Garin has become stronger again. It wasn't this fast some time ago. He is a pervert, Celine said speechlessly. Ansara seems to recognize Garin's strength, but it's a pity that neither of them is serious about it. If there is a real fight, we don't know the outcome, Sulin shook his head. The three of them lay on one side, not daring to move, for fear of being discovered by the two men. Hearing what Sulin said, the three of them couldn't help but look horrified, and Joseph even swallowed his saliva. This is not serious. Then what is real? Joseph squeezed the skin bag containing pure water on his body, and for the first time he doubted the world. Didn't my grandfather say that without pure water, it would be impossible for humans to fight against the dark race? Am I dazzled or is this world too crazy? You three, after watching for so long, it's time to come out and meet each other, right? Sulin suddenly looked in the direction of Joseph and the others with a smile on his face. Shinjuluo and some surrounding small countries all use the common spoken language of the Federation, with only slight accent differences. To be precise, Federal language is the most widely spoken language in the entire Xi'an continent. Joseph finally stood up with a wry smile. Johnson and N had no choice but to get up. Garin in the distance already knew that he couldn't keep up with Ansara, so he turned around and walked towards Sulin and the others with some reluctance. This time, he didn't expect to be able to stay and entangle Anchaluo. He just wanted to test how far he had improved. Sure enough, in this test, he did not use the first stage of Hard Qigong and the second stage of Hard Qigong Peak, but simply used the normal state to fight Anchaluo, but he was only at a disadvantage and did not suffer much injuries. Ruby Palm's fighting system makes up for his shortcomings in delicate skills for his fighting skills. When fighting Ansara, although he cannot use delicate skills, he already has enough understanding and handling of such skills. Ability. To put it simply, even if Ansara wanted to kill him, he would have to pay a certain price. Ansara also saw this, so he did not choose to fight, but left decisively. The most important thing is that Garin finally confirmed the golden sword seat this time. It is indeed on Ansara, and it is indeed an antique of doom with a lot of potential. During the close combat, Garin had completely confirmed this. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 140. Jialong restrained his energy and quickly returned to Sulin and the others. As expected of Ansara, even now I'm still not as good as him, he sighed slightly. By the way, what were those monsters just now? Werewolves. You've seen a werewolf, too, Joseph replied in a low voice. The other two people looked at Garin approaching, and they all shrank back slightly in fear, their faces pale, obviously frightened by the previous fight. Garin glanced at the three Josephs, frowned slightly, and was about to ask a question. Sulin on the side quickly introduced. The three of them originally planned to come here to attack the werewolf altar and destroy the hunting ceremony. There is no malicious intention. Werewolf. Really a werewolf? Garin frowned. Since there are werewolves, there are likely to be dark creatures such as vampires. And with vampires, is it possible that the Holy See in movies and novels on Earth will appear? A series of thoughts flashed through him in an instant. He had watched such movies before on Earth. What? Have you seen it? Joseph was stunned. He is the only one among the three who is somewhat normal and not afraid of galleons. No, I've just heard of it. Let's find a place to chat. It just so happens that I also have something to ask you. Garin glanced at the group of people in black cloaks who were walking towards here not far away. Now it seems like it might be more appropriate to ask them. The black cloak on the leader's head opened the hood, revealing the face of a middle-aged woman with scars on her face. My powerful warrior friends, we are the ancient clan living in the nearby mountains and forests. Can we have the honor to invite you to find a place to chat with us? Sulin, Xylin, and Joseph naturally all looked at Galen. Garin raised his eyebrows. Lead the way. The woman in black cloak nodded immediately. Please follow me. Half an hour later. In a small bar room in a mountain manor near the pine forest. Under the dim light, a middle-aged woman with a scarred face stood behind the reddish-brown bar, shaking the cocktail bottle in a fancy way. The three Galens and Joseph were casually scattered among the tables and chairs in front of the bar, some sitting and some standing. The three Josephs and Galen were sitting separately, and a young and beautiful girl was chatting with them. There was a roaring fire burning in the nearby fireplace, constantly emitting heat. So, you don't know if there are any other monster races besides werewolves? Garin asked with a frown. That's right, the middle-aged woman nodded, just call me Yamdo. Our clan has been entangled with the werewolf clan for generations. We generally only operate within the New Julugo range, and we don't know about other places. However, within the scope of Shinjulugo, according to our connection with several other clan gathering points, we have indeed only encountered werewolves. The other monsters you asked about can only be found in myths and stories. Yamdo, the leader of the Black Cloak clan, said strangely. He glanced at Garin. Garin nodded speechlessly. He originally thought he would encounter vampires, dark wizards, and the Holy See from Earth's legends, but he didn't expect this place to be so simple, with only two forces fighting against each other. One is the werewolf tribe, which hunts ordinary humans for blood food. One is the demon hunter tribe, whose destiny is to resist werewolves. The two sides have been fighting for countless years, and they can no longer remember the source of the conflict. Now it has turned into a racial war. Yamdo saw that Garin had no reaction, and then continued talking. Our Jagu clan is divided into 3 clans, and each clan resists the werewolf tribes in different areas. But they are too powerful. The ones we met today are only a very small group of members. They are hunting. The ceremony is equivalent to a human coming-of-age ceremony, and most of those are underage werewolves. But even so, it is extremely difficult for us to fight against them. Yamdo looked at Garen sincerely, and then his eyes swept over Sulan and Joseph. I hereby sincerely implore you to join our lineage of demon hunters. I'm sorry, we just came to this country to track a wanted criminal. We can't help you deal with that wolf clan. Sulan understood what he meant when he saw Garen's brows frowning slightly. Plus, they were originally. This is not the purpose. So he quickly refused. Without our hiding methods, you would have been hunted by the wolves. Only by staying in our stronghold for a period of time can we completely eliminate the source of their pursuit. Yamdo explained sincerely, the powerful Mr. Garen killed several werewolves, have their auras left on them. If they go out, they will definitely be caught up by the wolves. Then they will not be the underage werewolves just now, but the adult hunting werewolves who are too powerful. She met Garen's gaze. Mr. Garen, although you are very powerful, you are only one person after all. The wolf clan is more powerful than you imagine. They have two great elders, not the kind of elders we met today, but powerful hunter elders who are truly in their prime. Their strength far exceeds that of ordinary werewolves, as well as Wolf King Wasi Man. Their power has oppressed us for countless years. Now they are hidden in the depths of mankind and cannot be discovered except at special times. They have integrated into human society, and they are all masters of assassination. I'm sorry, we have other missions and we can't stay here for a long time. Garen shook his head. Is there another mission? I wonder what your mission is. Maybe we may know something about it. Yamdo knew that it was impossible to persuade the other party as soon as they met, and he couldn't see any benefits. No one would join in the empty talk. Also give up for now. Do you know the Golden Sword Seed? Golden Sword Seed, Yamdo shook his head in confusion. This is the first time I've heard of it. What about Dal Falls? Garen asked. Yamdo's pupils shrank. Dar Falls. What? Do you know where it is? Garen did not expect that the other party would react like this. Yes, well. That's the hunting area of Vida, the great elder of the wolf clan. Please wait, I'll find a map for you. Most people can't find that place. Yamdo quickly poured out the cocktail in his hand. After several cups, they were pushed in front of the 3 gallons. Then he turned around and walked out of the bar quickly. Gallon and the other 2 brought up the mixed drinks. Sulan smelled it but didn't drink it, but Celine drank it in small sips. It tastes good, she commented boredly. Garen walked to the wall of the bar and looked up at the various weapons and armor hanging on the black wall. These are the tools used by demon hunters to deal with the wolves. I remember in the movies on Earth, those demon hunters usually use silver products to deal with werewolves. Silver products will inhibit their regeneration. I don't know if this is true. While recalling the little information he knew in his mind, he took off a black crossbow and looked at it carefully. The crossbow is completely black and has a T-shape. The handle is wrapped with yellowed white cloth. It is rough to hold and not slippery at all. It is just slightly cold through the non-slip cloth. The crossbow was not loaded with arrows, just empty. Garen turned around and looked at the back. There were some symbols that looked like words engraved on the bottom of the crossbow. They were twisted and twisted. He didn't know what language they were in. This is the ancient Yinduo language. It is said that the ancient Yinduo language has the function of summoning mysterious power, so it is mentioned in many religious classics. Sulan came over and explained in a low voice. Garen nodded and hung the crossbow back on the wall. The other weapons on the wall were either crossbows or firearms. As for the so-called silver products, there was no trace at all. This makes Garen a little regretful. Judging from these weapons, the werewolves here don't seem to be allergic to silver products. To be honest, he is indeed somewhat interested in this legendary clan, but his main task now is to get the golden sword holder from Ansara. When he was invited by the demon hunter, he was also thinking that since he had already met the Demon Hunter clan, and the other party was kind to him, such a clan with a long history might be able to escape here and meet some old people with potential. Object. Garen began to touch and inspect the things on the wall one by one. There were a total of 9 things that were more decorative than used, and he checked them all. Unfortunately, none of them had potential. What do you think of these weapons? Yamdo came back at some point, holding a roll of sheepskin maps in his hand. It's not bad. Combining guns with tradition, it must be very powerful. If it's really good to deal with people, Yamdo shrugged, it's just a bit weak against the wolves. Not to mention Wolf King Wasi Man, even the great elder of the wolf clan, none of us can fight against them. But fortunately they are, because the inner bars fought against each other, and they were both seriously injured, and it will take at least many years for them to recover. Aren't werewolves very resilient? Celine interjected. What hurt them was not ordinary weapons, it was the sharp claws of their own clansmen at the same level, Yamdo explained. Garen nodded. I wonder if your ancient clan has been fighting werewolves for so long. Do you have any special ancient objects, such as antiques? To be honest, I have studied antique appraisal and am very interested in these things. Can you appreciate them? Seeing Yamdo's confused expression, Garen added, even if it is the equipment that was eliminated by the previous demon hunters, some leftovers, or some old werewolf stuff, it will do. No problem, we occasionally get some old objects from the werewolves we kill. It's a kind of collection and hobby. There are many such things. Yamdo nodded readily in agreement. This is a roll of nearby maps. It can be regarded as a thank you gift for helping us drive away the wolves this time. She handed the map to Garen. Mr. Garen, although you are indeed very strong, the great elder of the wolf clan is definitely not comparable to the average wolf clan. If you need any help, don't forget Arjigu clan. If you need help, you can come back here, come to the area. This is the area for us witchers. Thank you. Although Garen knew that this was a way for the other party to win over him, he was still happy to accept this kindness. After all, local snakes are much more familiar with the local area than outsiders like them. After checking the map, I learned some information about the surrounding Songshan city from Yamdo, and was given a bag of random small items by her. The 3 of Garen were also ready to leave, tracking on Sara overnight and heading to Dal Falls. Let's go see the 3 Josephs who came with them. The 3 of them are already very familiar with the pretty girl demon hunter who is chatting with them, and they have no intention of leaving here. They had just experienced that kind of bloody and violent scene, and their own self-protection ability was insufficient, and they seriously lacked a sense of security, unlike the 3 of Garen. So they simply stayed here for the night and prepared to ask the Witcher to send them back during the day. Joseph asked as he looked at the backs of the 3 gallons leaving. Aren't these outsiders afraid of those werewolves at all? The leader has killed so many werewolves, there will definitely be wolves seeking revenge from him. I don't know, but they are much stronger than us. Maybe they won't be scared so easily. These outsiders are very strong. The big guy in the lead is probably as powerful as my grandma, the demon hunter girl said with envy. It would be great if I could be that good someday. What are they doing so late? Anne asked quietly. No matter how strong we are, after all, there are only 3 of us. Can we deal with so many werewolves? Who knows? Joseph shrugged. He looked at the backs of the 3 gallons leaving, and suddenly a trace of curiosity flashed in his heart. He quickly closed his eyes and listened carefully. After closing his eyes, the image of the outside world slowly appeared in his dark field of vision. The image zoomed in towards the 3 of Garen, and then zoomed in on Garen alone. I want to listen to his origin and his voice. Joseph thought hard about this idea in his mind. Moo. Suddenly a huge elephant roar sounded in my ears. A huge white elephant with red eyes instantly appeared next to Garen and roared. Joseph shuddered and listened.